One thinking about in the last few days is how virality works. This is like the ultimate success for almost every kind of business, whether it's a consultancy like what I do, or a SaaS or software, or even like a hair salon. Virality, where people tell other people about your business, is like the pinnacle of success for a business. And I was thinking through how this worked. What was the core thing that drove it? And there are a few interesting things that we can observe about this. The first one, there's this 99-1 rule on social media that says that in general on social media, 90% of the people just look. They don't participate in any way. Maybe they hit a like button or something, but they're not actually present there. 9% of the people add comments and kind of participate in the interaction, and only 1% of the people actually post original valuable content. So this is it's like the 80-20 rule. The 99-1 rule seems to hold in many different situations. So I suspect, I don't have proof of this, but I suspect that the same 99-1 rule holds in recommendations as well. 90% of your customers will never recommend your business or you to anybody. 9% of your customers will recommend it to one person, maybe, when the situation arises, like when the right thing happens. And only 1% of your customers would go out of their way to tell everybody how awesome you are, how exceptional your service is, and would just become like a champions of your business, just promoting it everywhere they can. And this immediately has several consequences, several results. First of all, if you don't have 100 customers, it is unlikely that you will have one fan like that. Because if it's 1% of the people, you need to have 100, or ideally hundreds of customers that you've worked with before in order to hit that 1% of the people who are really like ridiculous fans of yours. So if you're a coach or a consultant and you've had 5 or 6 or 12 customers and no one's talking about you incessantly on social media, that might not be because there's anything wrong with your service or how you're doing it. It might be just because your numbers are not big enough. So that's one consequence. The other consequence is that if you look at the kind of people who are that 1% of the people who, post original content on social media, or who go around telling people about this amazing experience they've had with a business, they tend to be a specific kind of person. It doesn't only depend on how good your service is. It doesn't only depend on what you do. It depends on who they are and how they act in the world. For example, people who are introverted and more kind of averse to interaction with other people will probably not be a significant hub of recommendations. But people who are extroverted or very friendly, or are the center of any party they are in, they are much more likely to talk about you. The other consequence of this, so we talked about the 1% people. That's like a really rare thing. That if you land on it, it's wonderful, it's great, it's like hitting gold. But let's talk about the 9%. So the 9% of people would recommend your business to someone else when the situation arises. So I talked to my wife yesterday about this, and she's like, well, if I talk to someone and they tell me they have back pain or shoulder ache or whiplash or something, like some kind of chronic pain, that's what she said, I have my TCM teacher who is exceptional, in those kinds of things, and I will always recommend them to go see him, provided like the guy is pretty expensive, so provided the person I'm talking to can afford that level of care. So immediately we're noticing multiple things here. First, there needs to be context in the conversation. So the conversation needs to kind of naturally evolve towards a situation that a business is solving. All right, so this is a little complicated. Let's just rephrase this a little bit. So let's you have the business. Let's just frame it in a simpler way. You have a business. Your business has clients. Some of these clients will become recommenders. So we're talking about your recommender talking to their friend. So the first thing that needs to happen in that conversation is that the right context needs to arise. Let's say you build websites for a living, right? So that other person your recommender is talking to is saying, oh, I need to build a new website for my whatever, for my business. So the situation arises. This is the context. So this is like the right kind of conversation. You don't have any control of that, obviously, how often this arises. The second thing that needs to happen, that in the mind of your recommender, in the mind of your client, you need to occupy a particular spot. You need to be the best person for X, whatever that X is. In their mind, you either are the best person to build a website, or the right person to build a beautiful website, or the right person to build a beautiful website that is also cheap, or the right person to build a beautiful website that is cheap and also oriented to middle-aged women, because that's the kind of work you are known for, and that's the kind of thing that you do. And that gets us back to this very nebulous idea of brand. So brand is not like, if you've ever read anything about branding is not about a logo, and it's not about the tagline under the logo. Brand is the space you occupy in a person's mind, right? So if we're talking about a sweet, dark, bubbly drink, Coca-Cola might occupy that space for some people. Pepsi might occupy that space for other people. Fast, luxurious cars are Lamborghinis, but luxurious cars that are maybe not as fast are maybe BMWs or something like that. So in order for someone to recommend you to their friends or recommend your business to your friends, they need to be in a conversation when the right context arises, and they need to have you tied to that particular context in their minds. And that only happens if you have a very narrow, well-defined niche of what you do. And you can't just say that. It's not like, oh, I do this, and then you change your Twitter bio to say, oh, I do this. That's not enough. Your entire being, your entire way of presenting yourself to the world needs to be about this very, very specific, narrow niche thing that also arises in conversations. And when that happens, at least that's my hypothesis, recommendations start to flow from the 9%, not just from the 1%, which, like we said, is a really rare thing. So how do we do this, right? This is like this is a fairly complicated question. How do you get to a point where you occupy a particular space in a person's mind? Well, the first thing is something that I talk sorry. The first thing is something that I talk a lot about: niching down. So the narrower the niche, the narrower the type of work that you do, the easier it is to occupy a specific particular space in your client's mind. So I don't exactly know what people think that I do, but I think the closest thing I have to a niche or to occupying someone's a spot in someone's mind is that I'm a marketer that has been a developer for a very long time. Maybe, hopefully. Now, this is useless, right? Because it is me. I've been a developer for 25 years because before switching to marketing. But this is useless because it is not a topic that arises in conversations primarily, because no one's saying, oh, I wish I could find, as far as I can tell, no one's ever saying, I wish I could find a marketer that actually understands code. And if they do say that, they don't mean someone like me. They probably mean someone who can, I don't know, optimize SEO on the website from a technical perspective, which is not something I do or know how to do. So the actual category I occupy in people's minds is not conducive for people to recommend me. That's, by the way, the reason I'm thinking through this, because I've noticed that people are really happy with what I help them do. And then they proceed to never recommend me to anybody else, which is kind of annoying because it's a bit of an uphill climb to find clients without that thing clicking. So, like with everything else that I do, I'm trying to figure out, right, so what are the fundamental principles in play here, and how can we understand them, and how can we tweak what we do in order for us to improve our results. So if that's not something that I'm kind of unique for, or occupy specific space in people's minds for, then what exactly, like, what can I do? What kind of space can I occupy, and what can I do about that? So I'm a nice guy, right? It's also not a very unique thing. Lots of nice people. I seek, like, as a person, I've always looked for fundamental principles in everything that I did. So you could say that I'm seeking and sometimes finding fundamental principles in marketing, in sales, in all those businessy, entrepreneurial things. You know what? Like, I care, but no one else does. Like, the reason my clients enjoy the fact that they find and that I'm looking for and find fundamentals is because these fundamentals tend to work consistently compared to the hacks and tricks that don't. But that just doesn't resonate, I think, with anybody as a core thing. Like, oh, Ellie, he's the marketing fundamentals guy. Like, who cares? Who wants to learn that? That's not. And in the space of just SaaS marketing, it's like, oh, I'm the guy who can find you the first clients, who can help you figure out how to find the first clients. Which, like probably 15,000 people who claim to do that, and I don't know, maybe a third of them can actually deliver. So that's not very unique either. Yeah. So let's just explore that a little bit. I'm doing a little introspection here, which is potentially a similar process that you can do yourselves for your own business. What else can I be known for? And I'm noticing that as I'm introspecting this, I'm also doing a disservice to myself, because the actual question of how people perceive me and how they think about me resides in their heads. Therefore, I actually should be asking you how you think about me, rather than me thinking through this, which is a very standard problem for engineers who become marketers. We try to think through problems and not talk to people to kind of figure out the solutions. But within the context of this recording, where there's no one here, just me looking at my own reflection in the camera, I'm still going to try to pretend that I'm my own client and see how this looks from the outside. So another thing that is unique about me is that I am both a software developer, a marketer, and a life coach with kind of a therapy slant. Like, I sometimes say that I'm kind of an unlicensed therapist. I have a deep and long interest in psychology and quite a bit of experience helping people through some difficult times. So that intersection is kind of a little more interesting. It's a little more unique at the very least. I don't know how many people straddle the three topics. It's kind of, let's say, a unique expression of who I am. And if it's a unique expression of who I am, at the very least, it could be this space that people that that I could occupy in people's heads. So let's take a look at this, right? We're examining two things. Is it kind of unique enough to even be considered a category? And does it occur in conversations, and in which conversations I would like my name to occur? So if we're combining psychology, coding, and marketing, I would like my name to come up when an entrepreneur is, like, an engineer who became an entrepreneur is struggling with finding clients, and therefore is either stressed or anxious or depressed or something like that. I can, like, it obviously happens, but that's a very, very honest and revealing conversation for people to have. I don't see a lot of people having that conversation, except with maybe their partners or their best friends. So not online. Like, people sometimes, very, very rarely say, "Oh, I started this entrepreneurship journey a year ago, and it's so hard, and I'm stressed, and I'm out of money, and I used to be really confident as a software developer, but now life sucks, and oh my God, please someone help me." Right? Like, I maybe, over the last 4 years on Twitter, I maybe saw that twice online, maybe 3 times, and possibly one of those 3 times was me, and I tend to be a little more open and honest about my struggles online than some other people. So this is not a conversation, like, this is not a common enough conversation for a recommendation thing to happen. Like, that's just not, people just don't talk this way. Even people who experience this, it doesn't arise in conversations. So we're still looking, and let's look at something else. Let's look at idea validation. Now, this is, like, idea validation is, at least, is a common thing. Like, for God's sakes, on Indie Hackers, the website. One of the biggest, most popular forums there is called Idea Validation. People with ideas are talking about how to validate them. A lot of what I do does revolve around idea validation, because, and yeah, if we, like, take a step back, a lot of what I do revolves around idea validation, and idea validation in particular, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many other entrepreneurs, sorry, is about making sales, right? You have an idea for a new task manager, it's invalidated until you sold it 3, 4, 5 times, right? Like, and you don't need, obviously, if you've been following me for a while and you know kind of the way I think, you'll notice that I don't believe you actually need to build a task manager to make those pre-sales or to close these pre-sales. And there are specific ways in how to do that. So anyway, let's say, pretend for a second that I can become known as the idea validation guy. That anytime anybody has an idea and is wondering whether they should build it, my name arises in the conversation. Oh, you should go talk to Ellie, or you should check out some of Ellie's videos, or you should see his validation, invalidation course, or something like that. That seems a lot closer to what we're looking for here, right? Like, because, like, first of all, idea validation is a specific thing. It is a very well-defined thing. It's also a very well-defined moment in an entrepreneur's journey. They have an idea, they have not validated it. This especially happens for people who are doing this for the first time, who have a bunch of ideas and they don't know which to go on. So they have an idea and they want to figure out if this could potentially become a viable business, or they should have a different idea, or how do you even go about it? And there are multiple ways. You can build the app and then, you know, get the word out and see if it works. You can try to set up a landing page and see if that takes any traction. And there are problems with all of those things. Actually, specifically around, it's easier to prove that something is valid than proving that something is invalid. Because if you set up a landing page and no one's coming and no one's clicking on that buy button, doesn't mean your idea is invalid. It only means that that particular way of validation didn't work. You didn't, it's not a no. It's not like the word is telling you no, because either you don't have enough traffic, or the copywriting on your landing page is wrong for that kind of idea, or you do have enough traffic, but it's the wrong kind of people, or who knows. Like, there are so many reasons which could cause your landing page to not result in sales or even a waiting list, that it's not actually a valid thing. So anyway, going back to the original idea, becoming known for validation, early stage validation, the validation. It's kind of validating for me personally, because it's a real thing. It's a real moment in time where this happens. I can at least conceive of multiple conversations happening that are like that. That one person is telling the other person, "Oh, I have this idea," and the other person has seen my content on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. It's like, "Oh, you should check out Eli Feiner. He has some interesting things to say about validation." So this is much better than all the other options that we've talked about so far. But I like when there are three things. Like, something about having three pieces in a framework is really appealing to me. And we only have two so far. So we need to occupy a particular category, a particular spot in a person's mind, which is awesome, right? There needs to be context in conversations where this category is relevant, and that needs to be frequent enough to have a significant chance of our clients, of our 9% of clients, to actually stumble onto these conversations and have an opportunity to recommend us, right? And there needs to be some kind of a third thing, some kind of a thing that connects the other two. Like, what else is missing? And I think the well, let's think about this for a second. What else could be interesting here? Maybe something about the client themselves, or something. Well, an interesting, a related thing to occupying a particular category, a particular spot in your clients' minds, is that you occupy that spot consistently. It's what marketers call top of mind. They need to remember. So you need to be on their minds at all times. So sometimes you occupy a category in such a profound way, you basically set up camp there in that spot in your customer's mind, that even if you don't talk to them and they don't hear from you and they don't see anything from you in the next 10 years, they will still remember you as the guy who does X the best. But often, in order to establish that, you need to you need to keep in touch with them, and you kind of need to keep reminding them what is it that you do. And I think, well, this is a really surprising thought, but I think this is what a tagline is useful for. So every time some kind of budding entrepreneur asked me about a logo or a tagline, I would tell them, listen, you're not Nike, and you're not Apple, and you're not IBM, and you're not this huge corporation that is putting billboards for millions of dollars everywhere. A tagline and a logo will not become recognizable, and therefore it's kind of meaningless to invest in them. But if you are targeting a small niche of people, and you have a fairly good chance of them seeing you multiple times because you're actively participating on a Reddit forum, or Reddit, yeah, a Reddit forum, and you kind of are always there, or you have some following on Twitter. Like I have about 3,000 people on Twitter, which is something, right? I know I don't think 3,000 people actually see my tweets. It looks like 20 people see my tweets when I post them, but still, it's a fairly small niche of people. Then within that space, having some kind of a visual brand and some kind of textual brand, which is a logo and some kind of a tagline, should help solidify that category, right? That's like it's still, now at this point in our conversation, I'd probably not call it a category. I would call it a brand, but occupying a spot in someone's mind seems like a better description of it. But it is likely done through the meaning, or the method of branding, the mechanism of branding. So going back to me, and this is a very self-serving recording, but maybe you'll learn something from it, because this is how I work, right? I introspect. I usually do this in writing, but recently I'm doing this on camera, so it's an interesting experience to be doing this with you, kind of vulnerable. So if we take that ideation space, and I want to create some kind of brand around that, well, first of all, I should probably talk to someone who specializes in branding. And here, look, this is how it works. I'm thinking of the word branding, and I remember that there's a guy on my timeline on Twitter that I've been helping kind of reflect on the landing page he's been building. His landing page is, I will help you create a brand. I will help you set up a brand that will close more sales for you. I will, like, his brand. And my response to him at least 3 times was like, listen, dude, I don't understand what brand means. I don't understand what are you on about. He's I think a graphic designer, probably a really good one. I can't quite tell. But here's the thing. I'm talking about branding. I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking, oh, I should probably get a professional to help me do this. And I'm like, oh, there's this guy who does branding. Now, he might not be the most prominent branding person in the world, or even on Twitter, or like, who knows? But he occupies, at least right now, or for the last couple of weeks, he occupies that little space that in my mind that says branding on top of it. So if I were to hire someone to help me with branding, I would probably go with him. And this is how it works. We've been talking about branding. All he has been saying is brand. And now I think of him when I'm thinking of the word branding. So I'll drink to that. Because just by talking through this, I realized that this is happening all around me. A bigger example is Daniel Vassallo taking over, maybe even coining the phrase small bets, and then taking over the term completely. And one thing that I'm noticing is that this takes time. I don't know, the standard marketing rule is that you need to be exposed to something 7 times. I don't know if it's 7 or 70 or 700 times, but you need to kind of create a relationship in your mind between a person and something. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that people who follow me for a reason on Twitter. People who read my content do that for a reason and have some sort of perception of who I am and why it's kind of interesting to read things I write or to watch videos I record. But what I don't think people have is a clear understanding of what that thing exactly is, because I haven't put any effort into it. I haven't thought about that until this moment. I haven't tried to put it into words. Like basically, if there's a phrase that I can adopt and use it repeatedly in everything that I do and kind of talk about it again and again and again and again, then I should become recognizable as the person who does that thing. And if I choose that phrase to relate to a concept that a concept or a conversation or context that arises in conversations, I'm going in circles here, but we'll get somewhere. Don't worry about this. This is the way thinking works. You go in circles many times. It's like a little spiral. You kind of go up and up and up, and then you find a spot. It's like, okay, here we are. We got this. So if I have a tagline and a certain set of visuals that are related to my core offering, to what I help people with, and it is also a concept that arises fairly frequently on conversations with the kind of people that I want as my clients, then I have a better chance of coming up in these conversations. What do you say about that? I can see from here your wheels turning, trying to see if you can apply the same kind of process to your own business and to your own presence online. And how the hell can you do this if you only have 15 followers? Or how can you do this if you have so many different skills and so many different things that you can do? It's obviously a big problem, a somewhat unresolved problem, and I'll keep thinking about this and I'll keep narrowing it down. Yeah. One thing I probably don't want to be known for is introspection, even though it's a core attribute of who I am and how I approach life and how I approach personal growth, how I approach business growth. Like introspection is a big source of information for me, but being known for being known as the most introspective something on Twitter will not get me into conversations and will not pull my name into conversations about any particular topic, because it's not a topic, right? It's not a thing. But ideation, validation, like ideation, no, not so much. But validation, like validating ideas, and in particular, invalidating ideas, which is something that people don't want to do. I think it's such a valuable thing. Take your idea and quickly disprove it. You have a beautiful thing and you go through a rigorous process that is quick. And within a couple of weeks, you know that this is a really bad idea. You should not invest the next 3 years of your life into it. It is an exceedingly valuable thing to do, and yet obviously nobody will ever want to buy it. So invalidation out, validation in. So that's one thing. The other thing that I had in mind about a particular spot that I can occupy in people's minds, potentially, is the transition from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, or the transition from being an engineer who works for a company and is only in charge of building the thing towards a person who is an entrepreneur who is also in charge of building the thing, but he's at the same time now in charge of the marketing of it, the sales of it, finding clients, talking to people, possibly hiring, finances, and who knows how many other things an entrepreneur needs to do to actually become successful. And the transition has multiple skills that need to be acquired, some of them really difficult, some of them require profound unlearning. Because, for example, marketing is so different from engineering that in most cases you kind of need to forget parts of your engineering skills or education to be able to market well or to sell well, for that matter. Sales is also a very different thing. So the transition from being an employee or an engineer to being an entrepreneur is something that I can also conceivably occupy, a spot I can occupy in people's minds, that I help with that transition. I'm kind of the, for lack of a better word, transition coach. So, and the particular circumstance in which this arises is when someone is laid off. There's like massive layoffs in the world today. People are losing their high-paying engineering jobs in large companies, right, left, and center. And some of those people realize they don't actually really want to have a job again. Like, obviously, they have anxiety about this. It is really scary to suddenly find yourself with no monthly income, even if you have a big chunk of savings. One of the differences between employees and entrepreneurs is employees look at savings as something they've accumulated really, really slowly. And therefore, if they spend it, they will need to accumulate it really, really slowly again. Entrepreneurs don't look at money in the same way. They take a chunk of money, they invest it. Sometimes it becomes 10x of that money. Sometimes it becomes zero. And that's just life. And the money you have is an asset that then your risk tolerance you're supposed to play with in order to make more money out of it. So that transition, that mindset change is definitely something I can help with. But the point is that out of all the people who get laid off from a big company, I don't know, sometimes it's like 5,000 people, a certain percentage of these people are going to become entrepreneurs. A certain percentage of these people are going to want to become entrepreneurs, but struggle with anxiety, like specifically financial anxiety, not knowing what to build, how to build, what kind of business they want to run, just like having the desire to do something of their own, but no understanding of how to get there. And if we go with that angle, my desire would be to come up in conversations like that all the time between all the people who were laid off together, someone who was laid off talking to someone who's been an entrepreneur for a few years, telling them, listen, like, if you want to shorten the time it takes to transition from an employee to an entrepreneur, you should talk to Ellie, because he's done it. I have. And he also teaches how to do this, and he also kind of speeds this up from, say, something like 2 or 3 years to which is, it took me something like that, to maybe a few months. That would be really, really nice. It's like it's a beautiful thing. It also is very well aligned with the kind of change I want to bring into the world. For those of you who have been listening and reading the things I say for a while, you'll know that I'm not a big believer in employment in general. My version of utopia is a collection of free agents. Everyone has their own business. Everyone offers their services and consumes services by other people who are offering services. And we form these loose collectives of free agents to go after bigger goals without the need for a strict hierarchy in the way that a company is structured. I think that such a future could be a beautiful result of the deep destructuring of the systems that we see in the world today. It's the ultimate expression of personal freedom. It is a fantastic engine for personal growth. And I think as humanity, we could achieve a lot more by doing that. So that's my philosophy. And in that sense, helping someone who was just, well, fucked by the system, that and laid off, usually unexpectedly and usually with uh, no prior notice from a large company. Someone like that who's realizing that there might be other angles and other avenues for success and other ways to make a living, and maybe these other ways are significantly better, but they require guidance, they require mentorship. And oh God, I'm talking about this and I can feel how profoundly important this work is for me, how profoundly important this work would be for me. And I love to do this. I really, really love to do this. I really love to help people who are, wow, this is amazing. This is incredible. And see, I'm just introspecting here. I'm talking to you guys through the camera, and I'm arriving at these amazing conclusions. I actually don't have any doubt. Well, I have a little bit of doubt, but I have a very tiny, teeny bit of doubt in my mind that this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to be known for. Yeah. Well, in that case, the only thing is that I'm missing is a tagline, right? 3 words. Uh, that even something as simple as engineer to entrepreneur could be a good name for a book, right? You have multiple chapters, or maybe laid off to laid on. That's not. It'd be funny if it could be like something like laid off to getting laid, but that's not. That's not my particular angle. Yeah, it's so I'll need to think about a tagline, and I'll need to think about the way this brand works. And like I said before, however I slice it, this will require like some size to the audience, right? Like there's a need for scale here. So I can do this one by one, and I have done this one by one for a while. And I can do it in small cohorts, which I've done as well. But this will require more scale. I think you'll see me talk about this and push on this a lot more in the near future, because it feels profound. It feels valuable. It's almost 11, and I have a call in a few minutes with a very dear client, whom I love very much. And this means it's the end of this little interaction that I've had with myself and with you through this recording. I hope that this kind of introspective process that we went through together can help you do something similar to what you're offering to the world, to your kind of service, and can help you figure out at least an hypothesis of a category or a niche or a spot you can occupy in other people's minds, so that your name arises in enough conversations so you can crack that virality, that recommendation flywheel, and that your business succeeds beyond imagination. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.